Very warm welcome to all of us who have joined us today. Harsh Kaur, I'm so excited that all of you, the CyberGurukul members, as well as the external participants, you have taken out time on a Saturday evening for us. So it really matters to us. And knowing about Mr. Harshil Doshi, who is our esteemed speaker today, I am sure that you will find it the best and worth it. So while of course there's so much to talk on the session, why don't I first take the privilege to talk bit on our platform? Some of you who have attended the previous sessions are very well aware by now that although our initiative is recent, our passion for cybersecurity, our urge for the constant learning, and the experience of being knowledge enabler isn't. In fact, we want to dig deeper into the different aspects of cybersecurity. Keeping this platform, this session, open forum has a very specific objective, and that is to have a 360 degrees understanding of the cyber world by also glimpsing the challenges, the constraints, the roles of the different stakeholders of our community, which includes, of course, the different ranks in the organization or the customer organization, as well as having someone from OEM vendor, system integrator, distributor, consultants, and any entity, I'm sorry if I've missed out. And together as a community, strive for those answers which we can get today, or maybe as a roadmap. And of course, let's not forget the most important aim that we have, and that is the cybersecurity storytelling and consulting to go hand in hand. And it is such a great opportunity that we have Mr. Harshil Doshi today, who is the perfect example for this. In fact, with 17 plus of years of experience in companies, reputed companies like RSA, Symantec, ForcePoint, and currently being the director sales SARC at Securonix, which is next gen SIM solution. Mr. Harshil is definitely going to leverage his experience and explore the next gen cyber defense for us. He has that perfect balance of business acumen and technology, because he has been in this industry with multifaceted role. He has also worked as a pre-sales, as an evangelist, and as an enterprise sales as well. And by the way, did you know that Mr. Harshil has also been esteemed speaker, in fact, a frequent one at Gartner, VMworld, and also ISMG. And at this point, I really thank Harshil, you from your hectic schedule, which I'm very well aware of, you've taken out time and graced CyberGurukul platform. Trust me, it matters to all of us so much to have someone who's front running the cybersecurity thought leadership and has joined us to share his experience. So it really matters, Harshil. And while I will be quickly also setting the context for us, but why don't I have first few words from you, please?
Thank you. Thank you for those generous words, Harsh. Firstly, I would like to kind of make sure that I'm audible. Am I
Yes.
audible to everyone? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So,
Yes.
firstly, thank you, Team CyberGurukul, for having me here. It's always a very humbling experience to share, whatever as a cybersecurity professional to share with the extended community, and to also kind of learn from the wide variety of experience that we have on this particular group as well. So firstly, congratulations for building this platform, and secondly, thank you for having me here, and thank you everyone for making time. I hope the next 60 minutes are going to be fruitful for all of us, and we take back some learning from each other. So thank you again, guys.
Very much, Harshil. I am literally so keen and excited. I've already mentioned that to you to hear you out. So what I'll do is I'll quickly set the context for all of us, and then move forward with you. So while all of us, if I have to say why cybersecurity, it's no more a question, right? We all understand why, and especially the kind of cyber trends that we are seeing around us definitely keeps us constantly reminded of this as well. Now, if you see, if I talk about the kind of cyber crimes, the attacks that is happening, it is no more just a full-fledged business with social engineering and those hi-fi, top-notch words that we keep on using. And yes, we are still so much grappling with all of these challenges, but today it has become a whole $6 trillion whopping economy just after US and China. I mean, can you imagine that? That is the kind of challenges we are facing today. And if I have to quote World Economic Forum, the Global Risks Report, this is definitely among the top 5 risks that we see today and the biggest human induced threat. And if I have to also mention the contribution of the last 1 year, it is 600% itself growth as per United Nations. So that are the kind of challenges and trends that we are observing, that we are bombarded with continuously. And if I have to mention the kind of contribution that the ransomware damages itself has, it is about $20 billion, which is 400% increase in last 4 years. And the frequency of which is per 11 seconds. And the most disheartening and disappointing, kind of understanding is that 28% of these cyber attacks are because of insider threats. So yes, there's a lot of thinking that is going in this area and needs to be done. And I'm sure Harshil will also be putting certain points in these regards with us. And of course, like I'm quoting that we all understand why cybersecurity. That is a reason from especially last 1 year, this is a hot topic or a critical, important board level discussion that is happening. So that's not the question. Then what it is? It is how we are actually going to imbibe this journey to, imbibe the journey from being reactive to the predictive state of security analytics and the approach or how do we address these advanced threats. And with this, let's now welcome Harshil and learn from him. And I'm so keen. Please, Harshil, continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh. And I think the context has been set right. Uh, so before I actually begin, uh, I'd like to kind of wish that all of you are keeping safe, your families are doing good, and these are troubled times. And my prayers with all of you. And let's hope that we as a country kind of get over this pandemic as soon as possible. So with that note, I'd like to just begin now. The topic for today is is something of my liking, very much, because as Harsh mentioned, I've been here for about 17 years, pretty focused on cybersecurity. What I understand is one thing, and this kind of relates back to a statement which I heard from one of my ex-colleagues at RSA, who said that there is a reason why enterprises, governments, individuals, countries, they keep getting attacked over and over again, right? Irrespective of how much we invest in technology, irrespective of how much we invest in processes, uh, all of us are getting breached somewhere or the other. And there is a reason for that, right? The bad guys are innovating at a much faster pace than us, right? And there is a reason for it. Uh, they are not bound by rules, regulations, guidelines, so on and so forth. The only thing which drives them is a purpose, no matter how destructive that purpose is, and that is their driving force. And one of the reasons why we lag behind is that we are constrained so much by rules, regulations, so on and so forth. So we are always on the defensive. Me being a Gujarati, I always say that, that's a good thing because it keeps us in business. Unless they attack, what are we going to sell, right? But that's a very crude way of looking at it. But otherwise, I think there are reasons why we are in a state where we are, and as an industry who solely aims at protecting intellectual property, protecting enterprises, protecting processes, we are continuously striving to protect all of you, right? And we are also innovating. Now, that is the core motto of my session today, that how do enterprises like yours adopt emerging technologies to, if not be ahead, but at least start doing things a little differently than what we have been doing for the last decade or so, right? And it aligns with the topic that we have for today, in terms of how do we enhance your security operations to advanced security analytics, right? And that's what we are going to be focusing today. So without any further ado, I'll just like to share my screen and start my content. Unless if anybody else has to kind of say anything, here and otherwise we can start. So Harsh, can we go ahead?
Definitely, I'm looking forward.
Okay, perfect. So let me just do that. We'll start with the video. I just want to make sure everybody is able to see this.
Yes.
I hope everybody was able to see that video.
Yes, Harsh.
Yeah. So guys, I'll take the liberty here a little bit to kind of make the session a little more interactive over here. Probably I'll ask some feedback or some questions in between, and it would be great if you can respond to that. Now, one of the reasons why I showed this video is because I find a lot of similarity between the Avengers and what we do in our day-to-day life, right? If you're a fan of Marvels, and if you've seen the Avengers, you realize that all of these Avengers have a special capability. They have a special characteristic within them, and they are superheroes with a sole motive to save the world, right? And as cybersecurity professionals, we are no different, right? We are actually striving every day to protect the enterprises that we work for, whether it's in the form of a bad press name, or to protect our intellectual property, or whatever it is. We are striving every single day to do what we do best, right? And we are heroes in that aspect. And trust me, being in the other side of the table to sell technology, I actually have started appreciating and acknowledging the kind of pressure under which we work all the time, in terms of the deadlines, in terms of not being at loggerheads with business, so on and so forth. So the challenges with Avengers faced of the system, we are also facing on a day-to-day basis, because business continuously demands that, hey, I want liberty, which you are unfortunately not able to give, because you have to protect what you're serving, right? So in that aspect, I'd like to salute all of you to be that you're heroes, and you're protecting, uh, you know, whatever you're working for, right? However, all of us sometimes or the other, kind of give up. We become angry at times, right? We can't control our anger. Sometimes we are arrogantly smart, right? That's our characteristic. Sometimes we lead as captains, and sometimes we are skilled soldiers, right? And sometimes we have unrestricted power. There is a reason why I actually highlighted all of these characteristics, different characteristics to you, because our enterprises are not only made of, swanky servers, or IT infrastructure, or endpoints, or networking devices, or physical infrastructure, or whatever it is. It is actually made by people, right? And everyone is different, right? This is a very, very crucial but a very neglected aspect of cybersecurity that has been missed till now. So as Harsh pointed out, in her first graphic that she showed, that the cybersecurity industry has been spending over $1 trillion in procuring solutions. But if we kind of dig deep into this, we realize that 80 to 90% of that investment actually goes into procuring technology or aligning to the regional regulatory guidelines or processes. There is hardly any investment done on understanding people, right? The only investment that we do from a cybersecurity perspective in people is for them to get trained on the policies of the organization. And trust me, I'll be absolutely honest in saying that even being in this industry for the last 17 years, I have personally not read the information security policy of my own organization ever. Nobody does, right? Because it's the most boring piece of paper ever, right? And but the problem is multifaceted, right? Though we are the critical assets of our organizations, we are also the weakest link, right? We have all the technology to address attacks, to kind of align with processes, but we don't know that somebody inside in the organization is doing something wrong, right? We are not investing enough into understanding human behavior, right? So that's the reason why I brought out this particular aspect of us being very different to each other. And then, however, we are all aligned at achieving that similar goal to save the world that we live in, right? To make it a better place and to build bridges to work in unison. However, there's a dark side to it. There are some of us who also misuse power for personal gains. If you know Loki as a character in Avengers, he is a dark character in the entire series. Who lives with Thor, but still is from the devils, is from Odin, right? And he misuses his power for personal gains. And then there are trusted insiders who could betray. The Shield at Avengers was supposed to save the world, but there was a Hydra organization which was, which kept building inside Shield without their knowledge, whose sole purpose was to establish control over the world, right? So this is the dark side of the human behavior as well. Some of us are disgruntled, some of us are angry, but we never cross the line. But there are those insiders amongst us who actually do that for an ulterior motive. And this is an aspect which is more often than not actually ignored in the larger scheme of things. And we'll see how when we want to gain better visibility, stay ahead of the bad guys and start predicting risks, how important is this aspect to understand human behavior and to be able to uh, start getting those indicators of what actually is going wrong, right? So with that, uh, I'd like to say that even though we are working separately, we are actually one team, right? As I said, we have the same similar goal. Now our world does not look very different, right? These were Avengers, but our world, it's not very different. We are actually living in a world where newer threats are evolving every single day. I will not get into the statistics of which organization lost how much money, what were the individual incidents, so on and so forth. The common thread here is that everybody is vulnerable today. Right? Every single person is vulnerable today. However, a trend is emerging today, where we are realizing as an industry, as enterprises, as governments, as countries, that the most riskiest of threats which are right there are actually from the inside and not the outside. Till now, everybody was under the impression that, hey, we are protecting what we have as an enterprise internally, and all the threats are actually external. Either a state sponsored attack or an attack group, they are all attacking us from the outside. However, let me tell you this: no matter how strongly an outsider attacker wants to attack you, unless there is somebody from the inside who is helping that person, they can't do much damage. Or unless there is somebody on the inside who gives up information unknowingly, the external attackers can't do much, right? And that is why this entire concept of insider risk or insider threat has actually culminated, and it's an entire industry in itself now, right? And then with the advent of adopting newer technologies, we are in the new normal now. I'm sure all of you, who are security practitioners would kind of acknowledge this. At least for the last 1.5 years, because of this pandemic and because of the way enterprises have to keep continuing their business, they have to adopt technologies which are groundbreaking, but at the same time brings a lot of risk along with them. And cloud is one such adoption, which is testament to that particular fact. We have to expose our applications to our remote workforce. We have to ensure that anybody can access data from anywhere they work. We have to ensure that they can bring their own devices to access, right? So these are the new normals, which probably the West adopted a lot earlier than us, and we, being a little more traditional, did not adopt this at a very fast pace. But the pandemic actually ensured that we do, and that brought in a lot of, uh, I would say, a spectrum of risk which were unknown to us, and we were not poised to address those challenges. And of course, the risks were not limited to only information technology or cyber. There is an advent of IoT, there is an advent of risk uh, generating from business processes. There is financial fraud which is happening. There is public health related fraud which is happening. So the definition of risk actually has expanded so much that it is much beyond cyber and IT, right? As CISOs, as information security professionals, you would realize that the business today is facing far more higher risk than your infrastructure as well, right? So the boundaries are actually blurring, and we as an organization, or as an enterprise, have to go beyond IT risk to address an enterprise risk altogether, right? So that is where we are, as an industry. And as threats are evolving every single day, we need to actually keep up, right? So at this point, I'd like to just pause and ask this particular question. So Harsh, if we can run this poll right now, if that is okay.
Yeah, yes, sure.
Sure, Vijaya will do that. Thank you, Vijaya.
So everyone, we are starting a poll. It's an interesting question Harshal wants us to answer. Choose your options. I'm launching. Please, Harsh, confirm if you are able to.
Sure, I'll do that. Yes, the question has come.
So the question is very simple, guys. From your experience, what is it that you feel is missing in your current security operations? So I already see answers coming in, and we'll just wait for about, this is what, a 1 minute poll, Harsh?
Vijaya, can you help us with this? How much time it is?
So we can control when it can end.
Okay,
We
let's
say
give,
all to attempt at least.
or let us give about 2 minutes to have this poll. And I think this is pretty interesting, the way answers are actually
Yeah, absolutely.
being given. So
There are race also, Harshal. Different options people have choose.
sorry.
First option and the second option, there is a race.
Yeah, there is a race. Yeah, there's a race going on. Absolutely. So let's have some more answers, guys. I think about 50% people have responded. If you can, if we can have some more answers, it will be great. People are thinking, yeah, it's wow.
Friends,
Okay.
let's answer this within next 20 seconds, please.
Yeah, 20 seconds left. This is interesting. Okay. All right, we just have about 10 seconds. Those who have not answered, please answer. It's getting close between 1 and 2.
So I'm ending the poll.
Sure.
All right. So let's share the results with everyone. Um, so yeah, pretty interesting answers. When we asked you what is it that you feel you're missing in your current security operations, a whopping 44% of you said automation was the one which gained the highest percentage, followed by better threat detection, and then cybersecurity skills. Pretty interesting answers, right? And this is exactly what we are talking about. That so guys, thank you so much. If we can end the poll and close this. So my next slide actually speaks exactly about this, right? That what are the when we speak to global customers and partners and practitioners in terms of what are the key challenges that they face when they when they are running their own security operations. The answers that you guys gave pretty much are aligned with what we hear globally. Okay, so the first one is detecting threats, generally, in terms of if enterprises are running a solution to detect threats, it's actually not detecting threats. It's just running as per a set of static commands that some analysts have written, right? And one of the reasons for that is that they are not able to keep up with evolving threat landscape. So if you notice, the current set of solutions which are there are pretty static in nature. And secondly, they are not able to address these advanced attacks because of not employing next generation technologies, right? And they are not covering the entire infrastructure as far as collection of data is concerned. And second, of course, is the entire efficiency of security operations itself. I'm sure you must have heard of these terms called mean time to detect and mean time to respond. Now, these are very, very crucial terms as far as enterprise security is concerned. If you do not detect the right threat at the right time, okay, it loses its importance. Now, one of the studies which also Verizon did a couple of years back is that the mean time to detect a particular threat in an organization runs in hundreds of days. For example, the average that they found out is about 240 days before you can actually detect the right threat in your organization. Now, imagine you are almost waiting 9 months to detect the right threat, right? That's your mean time to detect. Okay, and it takes some weeks again to respond it holistically, right? That number needs to actually come down to some hours or some minutes, based on the speed at which the threats are evolving, right? So how do we improve efficiency? How do we automate our security operations so that the mean time to detect and mean time to respond actually comes down drastically, right? So that was one of the big problems that customers told us globally. And then there are, of course, technology challenges in terms of scalability, in terms of integrating with the existing infrastructure, in terms of it being compliant, so on and so forth, right? But the first two challenges that we actually identified globally are absolutely in sync with the answers that we got today. So guys, thank you so much for kind of reasserting the research that we did. And it's actually very, very interesting to see how we are all in the same boat. And I'll tell you where we are from an incident management perspective. on an enterprise grade, right? So imagine this as the time vector, moving from left to right. It almost seems like we are waiting for something to go wrong at say T0, right? It's only after something goes wrong and you start losing data, or you face a lot of slowness in your business, or there is some inadvertent activity which happens. Only then we realize that something has gone wrong, and we start doing post-mortem of that particular incident. And that terminology is called detective investigation, where everything has gone wrong, and then we start running around helter skelters to start seeing what actually went wrong. Okay, that actually defeats the entire purpose. You're not controlling the alert, you're not controlling the threat itself, and you have a very reactive approach to addressing this particular problem. And secondly, even the way in which an incident is actually highlighted in current solutions is a very tabular, monolithic view of incidents. You don't get any rich context. You don't get a pattern. You just get a simple incident that, hey, this is what we noticed. Take care of it. And your current detection also is only as good as the best SIM rule that you write. Right? Boolean logic, very very static in nature, and only as good as the smartest analyst on the block. You have to actually imagine scenarios in your head to be able to write a smart correlation rule, right? And that is limited by the human intelligence that is on the platform, right? And there is a lot of contextual forensics missing because the incident has already happened, so you don't have indicators, you don't have any data collected about it, which could make a lot of sense. So this is where we are today as as an industry, to which are very very reactive. We are not predictive at all, right? And part of the problem is the existing solution are not able to address the problems that we identified earlier. They are missing threats because there's not enough data, there's inefficient content detection capabilities and analytical capabilities. The incident response is absolutely slow because there's no context, there's no automation, and the solutions are pretty expensive and fragmented because of the way they are designed, and not to be very scalable, right? I'll not get into the why these problems are not being solved by existing solutions into too much. We all know because we use these solutions day in and day out, right? What's the solution? The solution really is to get from a reactive state to a predictive state. Now when I say reactive to predictive, what I mean is that we don't wait for something to go wrong. We start picking up indicators as we come in, as we go along. So one of the examples that I was giving to Harsh yesterday when we were having this pre-call meeting is that imagine a burglar who wants to rob a house and in a street, right? And he does his homework really really well, right? He starts by assessing how many security cameras are there, are there any dogs, what is the kind of security system that every house in the street has from a locking perspective, are there any security guards, are there any other security mechanisms, so on and so forth, right? So the burglar actually has to do some pre-attack work to be able to execute that burglary in a much more efficient fashion, right? The same thing happens in the digital world as well. Nobody can actually go for the kill in the first shot. They always leave hints here and there, right? They start accessing servers. They see if their credentials have elevated access. They kind of make friends with the IT admin to kind of get access sometime to the most critical server, so on and so forth, right? So there are many indicators that the fraudster actually leaves before he can actually go for the kill. And this is the state that we want to get into, where we start identifying those indicators, okay? And those in the cybersecurity parlance are called indicators of risk or indicators of threat, right? Where we don't wait for the actual attack to happen, but we start understanding indicators and keep adding the risk score to that particular entity or to that particular user to be able to identify if there is something which is going to go wrong in the future. And that is how we get into a very predictive state. Now, how do we do this? Okay, so it's all good to set the objectives right, but there needs to be technology which can support these objectives. Okay, and that is the key innovation that most cybersecurity companies have done in the recent times, where we use technologies like behavioral modeling, volumetric baselining, machine learning, so on and so forth, to get into a very predictive state. Now, how do these technologies do this? Right? We are now becoming very, very independent from static policies or static rules. And these technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning, they actually start understanding behavior from day zero, right? Behavior of your employees, behavior of entities, and behavior across multiple aspects. What time does a employee step into the office? How many coffee breaks does he take? How many social media accounts does he have? What is the kind of browsing patterns does he have, so on and so forth. So there are multiple aspects of behavior that these technologies learn to be able to start seeing indicators of anything wrong which is happening in your organization, right? So that is the first step that we do. The second is you get a very human view of what's happening in your organization, whether it is an insider risk, whether it's a cyber risk, whether it's any other business fraud or whatever it is. You don't get an incident view. You get a very understandable view of what's happening inside your organization, or a very readable human view. And the third one is that it's self-evolving. You don't need to keep training the system over and over again, right? It is self-learning on its own, because of these technologies. And of course, you have more contextual forensics, like a video replay or recording of the session or whatever it is, to be able to get more context of what actually went wrong. And that is how you actually get into a very predictive state, and not even allow for that particular incident to happen in your organization. And you take preemptive steps by automating using a SOAR or whatever it is, right? So that is the utopian state in which we aim that all enterprises actually go once they adopt these technologies. Now, this is at a high level what I wanted to kind of cover from where we are and where we want to go. So at this point in time, I'd like to pause and see if there are any questions. And then I'd like to kind of take it to the next level in terms of going a little bit into the detail of technology and some use cases. So I'll just kind of give 5 minutes for everyone to see if there are any questions on the content that we have already discussed, and we can take it up after that. Yeah. Guys, any questions on this?
So participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise these questions.
Okay, if there are no further, yeah.
Yes, Harshil, please continue.
Yeah, if there are no questions, then I'll continue. So yes, this is another quiz time that we have. Can anybody tell me what this picture actually indicates? This is a quiz that we have for all of you. Does anybody know what this picture actually means?
See, no answer is wrong, so you can definitely at least try and give your interpretation, or what do you think this is?
Anybody, guys?
We have got an answer from Jagdishwaran. It's a battlefield, very much. Yes.
Yeah, but there is a context to it. So, we want to know, who are these people in the battlefield? What is the occasion, right? Of this particular, picture it's depicting.
Jagdishwaran has started in the right direction. Let's go a little more deeper. Okay, surrender. Okay, someone negotiation in the middle of the battle. Okay, some very interesting answers actually. It is more important to act on threat. Okay, after identifying it. Okay, interesting. I think I like the answers. I'm sure Harshil will tell what it represents, but I think these are also very much right. It can be interpreted this way as well.
Yeah, but this is okay. So let me just tell you, this is an incident in our Indian history, right? And so the hint here is that this is one of the battles which was a defining moment in the Indian history. So can anybody now guess what it is? Who are these people, and what is actually happening? All right. So if so then I'll kind of bust the mystery, right? This is actually a scene from the Battle of Plassey is as we know it from our history books. And one of the significance of this particular battle is that it was a defining moment in the history of India, that the Britishers started ruling us. This was the battle where uh, the East India Company started its foot setting in India, and this is the moment that the Britishers actually started ruling India as well. And the guy on the right, his name is Mir Jafar, and he is meeting Lord Clive to give him very crucial information about the ruler of Bengal at that time, and you know giving those secrets to Lord Clive. And even though the Britishers, their army strength was just about 3,000, and the Nizam of
Sorry to interrupt you, Harshil, but we've got one answer now. Insider threat.
correct,
From Rakesh. Yeah, thank you.
correct. That is absolutely correct. That giving out state secrets to an external party, and putting your entire enterprise at risk is what this entire picture actually denotes, right? So if you look at our history, what is happening in our day-to-day lives, it is not very different from the cyber world at all, right? It is only the insiders who have the privilege, the power, the access to kind of do the maximum damage to the enterprise. No amount of external attacks can penetrate so deep that an insider already sitting inside can do that. So this is what Battle of Plassey actually signifies, that ghar ka bhedi lanka hai, the traitor is actually amongst us, right? So moving on, what do enterprises like yours need to kind of elevate yourself from a very reactive security operations to a predictive security analytics, right? Now there are multiple components which are required to be able to for you to be able to achieve this. Okay, the four, I mean, and these are Harsh, can we mute people who are not talking? Okay, thank you.
Teja, you'll have to help us with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, as I was mentioning, these are some of the essential components that you would require to get yourself elevated from a reactive security operations to a predictive security analytics, right? The first one is definitely a solution which can do log management. Okay, and currently, as the world is moving towards cloud, why not look at cloud to kind of deliver this service, right? So the first element is to have a very strong, scalable log management solution which can ingest events from your hybrid infrastructure, whether it's on-premises devices, whether it's cloud applications, so on and so forth. And the second element is that particular platform providing a capability to hunt threats, right? And this is where it makes a lot of difference between, because legacy solutions are built on RDBMSs, very slow, not scalable, so on and so forth. And here we are looking at a big data based platform to be able to hunt threats in real time. And the solution also should come with advanced analytics like behavioral analytics, machine learning capability, artificial intelligence capability, so on and so forth, for you to start detecting advanced threats in your organization. And of course, to automate your incident response, there is an orchestration and automation capability which needs to be built in. Now, when you're evaluating a solution, make sure that you cover all of these four aspects into your requirements so that you don't miss out on any critical capability that the next generation cybersecurity analytics has to offer to you, right? So just a little bit of an indication in terms of what you need to expect from these vendors when you're evaluating these technologies. And of course, the most critical aspect is, even after you've kind of bought the technology, what are the big benefits or use cases that you can derive out of that particular platform. And as I was saying, as we become more predictable, we start employing technologies like analytics, behavioral modeling, so on and so forth. We actually need to go beyond IT risk and start addressing risks which are impacting our business day to day. For example, a next generation analytics solution can ingest events from business applications to uncover risks, business risks. Okay, and if you look at the boxes on the right, the ones in the dark blue are the ones that we are currently focused on, whether it's insider threat, whether it's cyber threat, or whether it's cloud analytics. But what about risks associated to your business? For example, a bank can have financial fraud, right, which is happening. Can a solution like this address those financial frauds? An airline company can have aerospace analytics to be able to identify how efficient is their entire process. A manufacturing company can have PTC Windchill based analytics. A company using a CRM solution like SAP or ERP solution like SAP would want to understand, are there procurement processes, are there invoicing processes or financial processes are not being exploited, right? So can we do anything on that front? It can be anything. It can be Salesforce, it can be SAP, it can be Concur, it can be anything, right? And then there is patient data analytics. So I've just listed down some of these examples so that you understand that risk today is not limited to IT. It actually has penetrated into business, right? And we have seen such incidents happening right in front of our eyes. Okay, so for example, if you take an example of financial fraud, I'm sure all of you know how Nirav Modi executed the Punjab National Bank fraud, right? He actually connived with an insider in Punjab National Bank called Mr. Shetty, and he used to come early in the morning, had more access to the Swift system. He connived with other insiders to print LOIs on his name, so on and so forth. So there were so many indicators that a solution like this would have picked up and not allowed this particular fraud to kind of extrapolate itself into a 14,000 crore fraud, right? So, why can't we use a solution like this to address those kind of frauds? Then there are procedural frauds. I'm sure you all must have read that Citibank lost about $927 million because a maker checker process was violated by its system integrator partner, right? They had to remit a very little amount of money to a cosmetics company in France. Sorry, it's vendors of a cosmetic company in France. And because of a maker checker problem, they actually remitted about $927 million, right? It's not an IT risk. It's actually a procedural fraud, right? And then you must have heard about the Colonial Pipeline, attack on the US, and the Scorpion submarine leaks by, the weapons manufacturing company in France, right? So there are multiple such examples that you can take globally, which are happening, where the risk that we see are going beyond IT, and you actually need solutions like these to be able to go to business and say, hey, I am not only addressing your IT risk, I'm actually covering your business risk as well. Okay. And if you are able to make that statement to your business people, trust me, the kind of visibility that, the cybersecurity team gets inside an organization, it goes to a completely different level, right? So that is what I wanted to kind of speak about from a use cases perspective. So a couple of examples of how these solutions really work, right? So as I was mentioning, a new gen security analytics solution does not depend on static correlation rules. It actually starts adding risk to a user or an entity as violations keep happening, and then it keeps adding those risk scores to kind of generate a chain of violations which are happening. So, for example, David, as a contractor in an organization, uh, he badges in at an odd time, which is 5 a.m. He starts accessing his files, some files which are never accessed by any of his peers, and then starts to copy these, to a USB. You don't even need a DLP solution or anything like that to detect this, right? If you have an analytic solution like, advanced analytic solution, you will be able to detect this using machine learning, right? Second example, that John, as a user, gets a phishing email, and then he clicks on it, and then his machine is compromised, and then you see a lot of spikes in the number of files accessed. Now, in typical SIMs which are there today, you will be pointed to each of these violations in isolation, if at all they even detect this, right? They will not be able to chain it with each other, right? So you have to have a solution which can actually go beyond just highlighting these as regular incidents. So these are some of the examples that you can actually look at as to how an advanced security analytics solution can help your organization as well. So guys, that's all I had from my side, from the content perspective. So I think we are right on time. So we have some 3 or 4 minutes left. I'm absolutely open. If you have any questions, comments, more than happy to take those.
Thank you as well. Participants, you are unmuted. You can unmute yourself also and stage your questions and queries.
Thank you, Radhakrishnan.
At this point, if you want to share any inputs, you can do that as well. We can have few inputs now as well, and you can put it on the chat if you wish to.
Thank you for those comments, guys. If there are no questions, then we can end the session. But it was
Yeah.
It was lovely having all of you here, and I hope the session was interesting and informative for all of you.
Very much, Harshal. But before we end, like every time, let me just, for all of us, summarize what we discussed today. And yes, there were some very wonderful analogies, and definitely Harshal has forced a lot of us to think just beyond IT risk and understand these technologies, security analytics actually help us address business risk. There's some great examples for that, and let us all pat our backs because we are the Avengers of Cyberworld, like Harshal has mentioned, and he mentioned the kind of challenges we are facing day to day and how we are handling it. And of course, in times like today, threats are, like he mentioned, threats are evolving in cyber with new attack surfaces, and it's important at this time to also check those areas in terms of cloud security, insider threat, and IoT. And let's not forget those that interesting poll on which we had answered, and that is what is missing in the current cyber landscape. And I really appreciate Harshal taking out time explaining us how we can actually have better threat detection, automation, or maybe also focus on the cyber security skills, and how it is the need of the hour, and how we can actually shift from that static traditional techniques with detective investigation to having a predictive incident management with solutions, technologies, techniques, having better context, also having automation, behavioral modeling. I think those were very interesting, thoughts, as well as a feed for thought for all of us. Let's not forget the really great, analogy of Battle of Plassey to insider threat. And let me also thank Jagdishwaran, Amardeep, Kiran, Atish, and Rakesh of how they together brought it out with the insider threat concept. And I loved, by the way, Harshal, that was, and I expected this from you, but yeah, you still surprise all of us. And of course, as Harshal mentioned, the essential component of next gen analytics has few things. When you're looking out for a solution like this, you should definitely check that there should be log management with something like a native cloud native infra, have advanced threat hunting capabilities, advanced analytics, and of course, orchestration of the flow of incident response. These are definitely few things you should be looking out when you are checking for security analytics. And he also gave some good examples of how this next gen security analytics, behavior analytics can actually help us understand at the early stage of insider threat or ransomware threat. So I think there were so many points. I had to really make it a little more precise, but there were so many points, Harshal, that I am taking today, and I'm sure all of us are doing that, seeing the kind of reactions from so many of the attendants. Thank you, Harshal, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.